Today, we're going to be talking about where Buddhism and intuitive development meet, obviously inspired by the trip we just took. So, we wanted to share a bit about our journey to the Himalayas. We took a group of, I think it was 19 of us, to Ladakh, and that is near Tibet, on the border with Tibet. And it is the northernmost region of India. It's stunningly beautiful. We drove over the second highest drivable pass in the world, is what they told us, over 18,000 feet. We had an amazing group. We sat and we meditated. We visited monasteries. We ate food. We laughed. We cried. We made incredible friends. And it was just a very, very special trip. Mostly Cody, but
Mostly
others as
David
well.
was crying a lot. Yeah.
I am a
We
crier.
sat in a cave. We got to meditate in a cave where
Yes.
Yogi had meditated for years. Yeah.
Yeah, a yogi that meditated there about 1,000 years ago. We hiked. It was a pretty tough hike. It was steps, but it was very high elevation, over 13,000 feet, at a monastery called the Hemis Monastery, Hemis, I believe. And it was hidden from, they hid it in a behind a mountain so invaders couldn't see it when they ransacked some other monasteries, many hundreds of years ago. And so it was this hidden monastery that had been protected. And so
It was quite the hike to get there.
it was. We were sucking wind.
Yeah.
And when we got into the monastery, they built the monastery onto the cave. So to go into the cave, you go inside the monastery. When you get up there, if you go through, they built a door on the cave. And when you go through the door, you're in the cave. And there's kind of some Buddha statues they'd put up there. And we sat as a group and meditated in there for a good long while. We were the only people there. There was literally no one else. We had the
That
whole
was very cool.
yeah. And the energy was special. And one of the things we did was we had people just sit with the energy of the cave and let them get some insight from the spirit, from the energy of the yogi that sat there, from the cave itself, just anything that they noticed arise in their meditation. I think I took a picture actually when we finished of everyone else. I haven't shared that. I should share that somewhere. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was very cool. And to have it all to ourselves, that was great, because then we got to just meditate quietly the way we would meditate and look at the energy and experience the cave. It was really cool.
Yeah, and that's rare to get to do that at a place like that. And so the just briefly, the way you get there, you fly to New Delhi, and then from New Delhi it's about a 60-90 minute flight up to Leh, Leh, which is the main city in Ladakh. And then we got picked up by our team of amazing drivers and tour guide and brought to this beautiful retreat center with a nice meditation room overlooking the mountains. And the food was incredible. Every morning we had breakfast outside, and there was this beautiful old Ladakhi man he had like an outdoor oven, and he would make the bread in there for us, and it was delicious. It was incredible.
It was very cool. Great service. I mean, we were taken care of.
Yeah,
which was a great way to have the experience and have kind of our home base, because then we went out from there. So.
Yeah, we did a 3-day trip over the mountains. First, we went into one valley that was in between Pakistan and Tibet, and we sat and meditated.
Valley.
The Nubra Valley, thank you.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, we sat and meditated in the desert. So in the valley, there's an oasis, and then there's a desert. And we sat in that, played and then sat and meditated in the desert. There were some camels. That was very special energy. That was some of the most amazing energy, I thought, of the entire trip. And when we drove over the mountains, we needed oxygen. Well, I think I took more oxygen than almost anyone on the trip.
You do tend to take up most of the oxygen in your room, so.
I was in there. I was in the car just like sucking wind. When you land in Leh, you had to spend 24 hours just doing nothing and acclimating, because it was 11,500 feet just where you land. And so most of us were like, whew, even if you think you're okay, take a few steps and it starts to hit you. I needed oxygen a bunch of times. A lot of people did, and they would just bring it to the room. You just you just breathe it in for 10, 15 minutes and then you feel way better. Um, yeah, so we went over to the Nubra Valley, 5 hours over these incredible passes with yaks and dogs and goats
And
and
crazy roads.
crazy roads. But they
Like
felt safe. Uh,
most of the time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
There's a
Uh,
few moments.
we did have one driver that was too fast. We had to tell him to slow down.
Yeah. He thought he was in a on a racetrack or
Yeah.
something. That was our driver for a while.
Hmm.
He did almost get us killed. We did almost get on collision.
That in India it feels like that, but that's actually just common. Yeah. So after the first night in that valley, the second after this we drove to a second place, which was this beautiful lake, Pangyang Lake. I think I'm saying it right. And that was right on the border of Tibet, where there are over something like 100,000 troops, Indian troops on one side, and 100,000 troops, Chinese troops on the other side. That's what we were told. We saw lots and lots of troops. I didn't count them,
We
but that
saw a huge caravan of troop
yes,
movers when we were leaving. Like, uh, I don't know, like at least maybe 50 to 70 huge trucks. Yeah.
yes, and it's interesting because that border has been closed only for about 10 years. It used to be open. They would graze animals across the border and trade, and so it's gotten worse. And so what we did was we took the group onto the lake near the border, and we did a meditation on the energy of it and doing some healing on the conflict between these peoples and governments. And there was a lot of tears. Our tour guide in particular, he's of Ladakhi Tibetan descent. They're very, I mean, culturally the same people and genetically, and it was powerful. And the energy, there was a lot of energy there, really, really profound energy.
Yeah. Because
Um,
I think the Ladakhi probably identify more with Tibet. Like they're separated from themselves in many ways there. It was really intense.
yeah,
A Salt Lake, by the way, that was
oh, it
kind
was
of
a huge
interesting.
salt lake. Yes. Uh, and so the Indians used to have more of the lake. The Chinese invaded and took more, so a bigger part of the lake. So a few decades ago, I believe. And so there's a lot of tension there. And it was interesting to bring a group of people and meditate on that energy and that tension, and not avoid it, but just really sit in it because it's such a beautiful place, special energy. And then we slept. Our rooms had these like glass, openings where you can look up at the stars while you're sleeping. That was pretty incredible.
We were at 14,000 feet that night.
Yeah,
That's where that lake is. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and then we drove back to home base to the retreat center, and we got to spend part of a day at a school for beautiful little Ladakhi kids, 260 something kids, and we did some philanthropy. We brought them tablets, like iPad style tablets, and books and pens and games and toys, and they were so adorable, so
Yeah,
adorable,
we
so
got to really
appreciative.
talk with some of the kids. That was really cool. They were,
Yeah.
and they did a little song for us, like each little class would sing a little
Yeah,
song.
that's right. They sang for us. They were so
Yeah.
sweet. They told us something like the yearly tuition, or government tuition for the school that they pay the government is like $1, $2, something like that. But they didn't have enough money for a computer teacher. And so we bought them all these devices, and one of the students on our trip paid for a computer teacher for them. So they're in the process of hiring one. And another student paid for their internet because they didn't have any internet at a
They
school
didn't
for.
have enough money for internet.
And guess how much internet is for a year? It
No,
was
well, for a year, monthly, it was
$8.
$8 and they
Yeah,
couldn't afford it. Yeah.
yeah, they couldn't afford it. And so obviously somebody immediately was like, I'll pay for that. That's one latte a month.
A month.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, a bolder latte. And so by the way, after the group left, I stayed a few more days alone, and we brought the 60 kindergartners back, and we had a pizza party. I need to share all those. I'll share those videos on Facebook, Instagram somewhere. I need to share that. And it was just, they were so special. Oh my God. That was one of the best parts of the trip. And then obviously
So
between all
cool.
the, yeah, between all the fun and the travel, we did a lot of healing, a lot of meditating, a lot of inner work, a lot of sharing, a lot of friendship building,
We
and
learned about Tibetan medicine. We had a
Tibetan medicine.
speaker, and then he did those, what do they call the readings where they
Yeah,
do the pulse?
he was a Tibetan doctor, and he put his fingers on your pulse, and he charges like $5 a person, and he just did the pulse thing. It was incredible because first of all, I was in a car accident when I was a kid, and so I had a collapsed lung, and he pointed it out. And then, but what was more incredible than the lung for me was I had hurt my ankle hiking in Nepal a few years ago. I like slammed on my heel too hard, and he literally felt my pulse for 30 seconds. And then he said, "Did you land on your heel too hard and hurt your ankle?" And I was like, "Oh my God." Me and Cody do that stuff, but differently. How did you do that
Yeah.
through the pulse? That was fascinating.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I, I don't think I was the only one impressed with him. A lot of people in the group really enjoyed that. And then
Oh,
he
yeah.
prescribed some herbs for each person.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Uh, by the way, I can't remember if I told you this, Cody, but after the retreat, I went back. I went to the Tibetan hospital with the guy who ran the retreat
Oh, you
center.
did?
Yeah, and he put me in this box up to my neck, and there's a tube, and they put steam in it with herbs. And so you sit in there. I
Oh,
don't know what kind of herbs they put in there. They're all local. They find them on the side of the mountain, and they for about 15 to 20 minutes until basically you give up and can't take it. I was like, there was no one in the room to help, and for like 5 minutes, I was like, I'm done. And so like it's really hot in there, and it's full of steam and herbs, and it felt really good. I felt like I detoxed, and afterwards we went to go pay, and it was $1. $1. I was like, God.
yeah.
And they refused to take more because it's a public hospital. So they were like, no, that's the price. Um, it was special. It was really, really cool. I've done dozens of retreats, and that was one of the most incredible ones I've ever got to experience. So so nice to get to go up there with you and with everyone and share. And
Yeah, we had a great group. It was lots of fun, and everybody was so adventurous. I mean, so many of the things we did, it felt like just this adventure that we did not know what we were getting into half the time, and everybody was open to explore. It made it fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then last thing is before the retreat started, Cody and his family met me in New Delhi, which I've been many times, but they hadn't
That
been.
was kind of a highlight, actually, of the experience in terms of a standout in the mind was experiencing New Delhi.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
So I took Cody, his wife and daughter. We went to the largest, well, this is what our driver told us, the largest market in Asia, in New Delhi. And I mean, when you get out there, it's tens of thousands of people. It's so intense. It was so overwhelming. It started raining. There's cows. There's, I mean, we walked around for, I don't know, a couple hours, and maybe we saw 1% of this
It
place.
was
It
amazingly
just went on and
overwhelming.
on. It was quite the experience. New Delhi was a lot and also really, really fun. So, and then in terms of the meditative spiritual side of the retreat and the kind of work we did, and obviously everyone can't go with us, and I thought we could spend a little time sharing about some of the work that we did with everyone and discussing some of the similarities between those traditions, Buddhism, and some of the work that we do. Obviously, they're different, but there's also a lot of similarities. So when we work with chakras, energy centers, energy channels, past lives, all of those concepts come from India. Even
Right.
pre, some of them pre-Buddhism, but the Tibetan Buddhists use a lot of them. Dream travel, Bardo states, so many overlapping concepts. And so I've always found, like, I used to do a lot of Vipassana meditation, which is a Buddhist practice. And I would go on 10-day silent retreats. Very painful, difficult, and rewarding. They're free.
Hard
They
to
have,
imagine you silent for 10 days.
that's very funny, Cody. Uh, so those were very profound in my early meditation practice for me, really helped me create a foundation. Um, and so it was interesting though. Me, Cody, we talked about this before earlier today when we were preparing that, during our trip in Ladakh and to all the monasteries we went to, there was not a lot of meditating. There was a lot of chanting,
No.
right? There was a
Yep.
lot of ritual, um, but we didn't
But
see,
not a lot of
yeah.
energy. I mean, the energy was cool in some of these monasteries, to be sure. There was sacredness, there was a certain level of like a spiritual sense in them. But in terms of seeing people meditate or getting that vibe, it was a lot of activity, and or the ritual stuff was really big. Like we got to sit and watch, what was that, a morning chant, did they call it? The morning thing. We sat there for probably a half hour with them, and it's all chanting. There's like a lot of activity in it. And that was interesting to me to see how ritualized so much of it was.
You were also saying how different it was to Japanese Zen Buddhism when you
Yes.
visited Japan.
Felt very different. I didn't realize how different types of Buddhism could be so different, like how it could feel so different. And the Buddhism in Japan was way like simpler and more nature oriented and more stillness. And in Ladakh and in these monasteries we went to, a lot more activity, a lot more deities, very complicated system that they were kind of explaining to us of the wheel of life and that kind of stuff. It was very, very eye opening in that way.
It's so interesting. There's a huge difference between Hinduism in India and Hinduism in Bali as well. If you ever go to both places, in Bali, it's also very much more connected to nature. The main practices are leaving flowers every day for the gods and goddesses. It's very, very nature oriented. And I think that goes for every tradition. The culture makes it into their own. You could
Right.
you see that everywhere in the world. So you definitely, I think, you'll notice that difference: the Japanese versus the Tibetan Buddhism, and
Yeah, the culture is very different, of course. So makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
the Tibetan Buddhism is also intertwined with the Bon tradition from Tibet, which I think predates Buddhism, and so there's some overlap and synergies with those two traditions. And so when the Dalai Lama escaped from Tibet in 1959, he actually walked through the Himalayas at night. He escaped through the mountains on foot, and by some miracle made it into India and has lived in India ever since. And he spends many of his summers in Ladakh, in Leh, where we were. And I was lucky enough to spend some, don't ask me how, but to spend some time with the king of Ladakh a couple days in a row. And one time it was just me and him for the afternoon. We just walked around his grounds and he showed me around, and I asked him, I said, does the Dalai Lama come visit? And he's like, oh yeah, all the time. And I was like, and what's he like? And he was so simple and matter of fact. He's like, oh, he's a cool dude. I was like, a cool dude. He's not like an old college roommate. Give me something to go on. What's he like? What does he like to eat? What does he do? Um, and so that was really fascinating to experience that region from the perspective of someone whose family lineage, I think it was like 1,000 years, they've been kings of that region, and they lost power in 1947. The Indian government took over, but they're still there, and so that was really, really cool and interesting. So this was, there's so much tradition overlapped with spirituality. I think whereas in what we teach in the intuitive work, there's not really there's not as much of a belief system or tradition. It's more of just the direct experience of doing the work, right? You could
Yeah,
be
it's like
from, Yeah.
direct practice that you do, which in Buddhism, I mean, it did start out that way, right? It has this idea of direct experience with this, whatever you call it, the space beyond, beyond, say, thought or beyond the physical. But it seems like what we saw, it was very much steeped in the tradition and ritual that arose around that.
Yeah, in a way, there's I think in a lot of these traditions, there's like initiations, and the longer you go, the deeper you go, the more they open up to the spiritual side of it and teach you those tools. So I think traditionally, like when you become a monk, first you start with the ritual and you wear the robes and you do the chanting, and then slowly as you advance, they teach you more and more advanced meditative techniques. And I think that probably worked well for, thousands of years. Now, kind of in our more modern Western, consciousness, I think that we go more straight to the tools themselves, the ones that, and
Yeah.
just distill the ones that work the best. And, it's interesting. Vipassana just really, the word Vipassana just means clear seeing and
Mm.
insight. And so, I was searching this today actually. So the Buddha didn't teach just one meditation technique. He taught breath awareness, body awareness, emotion awareness, heart-centered loving kindness meditation that in Buddhism they would call metta, METTA, where you send, it's more compassion focused. And so he very likely taught many different techniques and then different schools of Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, they focus on more of a specific branch or aspect or technique, and that's what they work with. And so, for example, with Vipassana, if you ever go on a Vipassana retreat, it's mostly just body scanning up and down from head to toe, toe to head, 10 plus hours a day, just watching the breath and scanning the body, just mindfulness of the body and the breath. And it's torturous and boring and painful and very profound if you can pull it off and work through all of those um, difficult spots. But when we get into the energy work side of stuff, we that's like the foundation of being still and meditating and having a quiet mind. But then we get into more of an awareness of our emotion, of our energy, what's behind our thoughts, and then learning to see intuitively. And I do think there are aspects of Buddhism that they have that. They're just not as maybe public and prevalent. But I've always found that the Buddhist meditation practices, the mindful practices, are very much like the fertilizer and the foundation for going into your intuition. So if you've got a very noisy mind, your emotions are all over the place, you're ungrounded, you're out of your body, it's going to be hard to have a clear seeing, clear knowing, or intuition because if there's too much noise, you can't hear the signal. Um, and so that I've always found it incredibly
That
useful.
helped
Yeah,
you getting into
yeah,
it, like, you had to do that first, yeah.
definitely helped me a lot. Um,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
there's a bridge there, I think, to cross.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that we're part of that bridge. We do a lot of that teaching. A lot of people have been meditating for a while. They've done mindfulness. They sat, they watched their thoughts. They did some breathing techniques, and then they started to open up to some more.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where kind of we come in.
Yeah. Although, I mean, many of us did not go through that path. We just came right into the intuitive awareness, and the tools and that awareness is quite accessible. But the sitting in meditation experience, well, we all have to grow in that anyway, but, um, we didn't necessarily grow up with that here.
I'll have a lot of students though, they will say, "Hey, I was meditating and I had a vision or an intuition or a feeling, but then I didn't know what to do with it or how to cultivate it properly, or I started having dreams, predictive dreams, astral travel experiences. I started feeling other people's pain." out of body experiences, all of those things start to open up as you cultivate your awareness. And there's just not a lot of traditions that teach you clearly how to deal with that. I think one of the shortfalls of some of the Eastern traditions is their advice is mostly to just ignore it. When I lived in the ashram in India, that was always the advice. Every guru, every teacher was just ignore that, just let it pass. Um, and that just
Oh,
wasn't what I
interesting.
wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah. But that is true. You start to meditate, and it seems like you can't help but start to awaken to these other things that are going on. You start to be quiet enough to notice them, and then that kind of leads to these questions of uh, kind of what is going on, what is behind some of these experiences, and of course, our answer is it's energy and spirit is really at play, and you can start to become aware of that and interact with it and work with energy, and it's kind of this dynamic interaction that you're
Yeah,
in.
exactly. And also, it was interesting. Like the Dalai Lama is the 14th incarnation of the same soul, but
Right.
rarely is someone like, well, how do I have those memories or connect? Or they're all just like, he reincarnates, and maybe we do, but that's the end of the story. And so we do a lot of that work in reading our own past lives and awakening to some of that as well. And it could be
That's
very
true.
useful.
I just realized that how many people told us about the Dalai Lama
Yeah.
incarnating or this other Lama, the incarnation and finding it, but no one had this picture about like their incarnating and their past lives and kind of their journey. It was all focused on this one person's journey. Yeah, interesting. I hadn't
I
thought of
was
that.
I can't remember. I was sharing this with you somewhere in a class we were teaching, but I was meeting with a Ladakhi person, a schoolmaster, headmaster, and he was saying he loves all the spiritual side of stuff, but he has to YouTube teachers from America to learn about all of that stuff.
Yes, learn about the energy side and
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny.
Um, I thought that wasn't, when you started, and maybe you could share about this, your teacher got some of these tools from some like Rosicrucians, Freemasons, some groups he was in that would kind of covet these tools and
Right.
hide them from the public.
Yeah, which is much like the initiation idea, even in the Buddhist tradition, let's say, where you kind of work up, but then that's really for the select few that take that path, and where the tradition that I kind of come out of with energy work and these tools was the person Lewis Bostwick, like, was always psychic and had those experiences throughout his life and kind of was in the spiritualist movements and Rosicrucians and different kinds of movements of exploration, let's say. But one of the things he kind of bristled at was, and he used to tell a story that he had asked some question and that was kind of technical. It was kind of like how many levels to the astral are there? And the answer you got back was kind of very dismissive, like, well, that you're so stupid type of an energy of, you don't know this. And the answer was something like 144. So it's not something you would intuit, right? It's not something you would just know. And so he thought that was really not a great kind of energy around the spirituality, that it should be open to everybody to explore this part of themselves and that these answers and these tools don't need to be hidden. So he kind of put them in the front end of his teaching, which is, I'll just teach you the tools, and what you do with them is yours to do. They're yours to practice and learn about. So
And
it took away that kind of superiority, and he called it kindergarten, like energy psychic kindergarten, which just means everybody can just play and explore, and there's no stupid questions. There's kind of this freedom to come in from where you're at, not know anything, and start to learn because it's all experiential anyway. You have to just get in and experience it to really learn about it. So
And the most popular, like one of the most popular book series, movie series of all time is Harry Potter, which is all based on a school for learning about this kind of stuff.
yeah, totally.
But even in the Harry Potter world, there's a delineation between muggles and wizards and people that can do magic, right? And so it's the same old kind of line that's being drawn. Uh, and to some extent, sure, that's true. There's a lot of people maybe on planet Earth, they're just kind of unconscious or unaware of their own abilities and potential. So sure, that and they bristle, they look at people who maybe have a spiritual bend to
Yeah,
them.
they don't believe it, or
Yeah.
right. But we do believe everybody has that potential. Like it's part of being a human being is the spirit side is there, whether it's asleep or awake, that's a different question, or whether a person has awakened to it and focuses on that aspect of who they are. Sure, there's plenty of people that are totally closed off to any of those kinds of ideas.
Yeah, I do think Harry Potter has helped open people up to it more and more.
Yeah.
I know some guys in their 40s and they are obsessed with Harry Potter. And I'm like, you can actually learn this stuff for yourself, and open up to your own abilities here. So we're not going to teach spell casting, but some of the other stuff maybe. So
It is. It's funny when I think back when you talk about that influence Harry Potter had on, say, a generation. When I think back to my days as a um, like primary school, we would go out and play tag or football or whatever. And when my daughter was in school, they would go out and play Harry Potter. So they would have wands and cast spells on each other, and that was just really such a huge impact in our culture.
yeah, I agree. It had a big impact on me too, although it came a little bit later in my life. So, we're gonna do a meditation soon here in a bit on this topic, but we wanted to, we wanted to share some of our experience through our travels, and what that was like, and hopefully one day we will do another retreat. Some of y'all can come. We try to do some in Boulder at a low cost. We're looking at Japan, Hawaii, some different places. I like to go to places where there's a real energy that we as a group can connect with, and there's spirituality everywhere you go. In Hawaii, there's incredible roots in spirituality. Obviously, in Japan, so many places, and so I've always my whole adult teaching life, I've been taking people. I'm taking a group to Portugal next month and then Italy in the spring. And I love to go to spots where you can really feel, maybe sometimes for thousands of years, people cultivated an energy. I remember I took one group, we went to the south of France and followed the steps of the Knights Templar, and that was really cool. And I think some of that kind of led to Rosicrucians and
Yeah,
the Freemasons, right? Like they brought some of those spiritual tools over with them. We can go down the rabbit hole of secret societies, but in a way, this tradition that we teach, all these energy tools, did come out of secret societies, and so that's kind of, and almost like it's still coming out. It's still
right.
our whole teaching work over these years that we've been teaching together for like 10 years has been to make this accessible and remove the taboo and make it accessible to every single person,
Everybody. Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
And
Although
that is the goal to what's that?
I would like to have a secret society. Maybe we could
So
start another one.
yeah. You can have
A
a secret
handshake.
society that only speaks Vulcan. That would be your secret society.
We need a handshake, Cody. So we don't. There's definitely not a secret society, but I have noticed so we'll teach the beginning levels of this work, but then when we get into the more advanced levels of like learning how to do a reading on somebody else, and then that kind of healing work, a lot of people will drop off before that point, and then that cohort does turn into something where, people will work with each other, reading each other, doing healing work with each other for years and years. I still do trades with other teachers that I've been working with for a decade. And so there does, like, a cohort does kind of form over time where there's a language, and you can go into a level of depth that you couldn't otherwise. And
Yeah.
that, so I don't want to call that a secret society. It's just a
It's
group of
not right. I
people
was gonna
doing the
say it's
work.
not secret, but we have, like, I teach the transmediums, which is very advanced. Like, you have to practice for quite a while with the reading tools and doing readings. So it's not secret, but it is kind of, it takes a while to get there. So it still has those levels of what you might call initiation. We just call it like taking a course and graduating, but it's you're going through levels of gaining experience with the practice before you maybe add a whole new aspect to the practice, like mediumship. Or I just started a group of hands-on healers for the Japanese group that I teach, and I was in Hawaii after India for a couple of weeks, taught two retreats, one for the transmediums and then one for a group of hands-on healers. And that's something where, you have to be practiced in the skills and the energy working before you get to where you would do something like that. So we do have that structure. I don't know how you get away from it though. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this is a side point, but there are these new Apple earbuds me and Cody were talking about before we started
Oh, I
class
know. I
today.
tried them. Oh my gosh. So they have live translate now. And so they have Japanese as one of the languages. So I tried them on with the group while they were sharing. And then I would tell back to the group what I heard. And they were very, very accurate. Even the things that I thought were a mistranslation, because this one person was describing doing the energy, the hands-on healing work, and she had kind of reset the energy in her hands for it. And all of a sudden, she said, the translate said, and it just felt like just plowing this golden light, just plowing a field. And so I'm like, that must be a mistranslation. So then I tell them back what I heard, and they all started laughing and they all started saying, that's exactly what she said.
It's a cultural
Like,
reference.
they could not, yeah, they could not believe how accurate it was. It was amazing. So exciting time to travel because it had all kinds of languages. You can go anywhere now and just have a conversation with a merchant or a person or whatever, or maybe eavesdrop on foreign conversations now.
Yeah. I don't mean to keep bringing up Star Trek, but in Star Trek, there is a universal translator,
I
and
know
we're
there
slowly
is.
getting there. So I'm excited. And that's, I mean, that is a huge step in connecting, right? You have Japanese students who you can't understand a word of what they're saying, and now you're literally listening in real time
Yeah.
in your ear. That's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
I don't like I teach through a translator and there's a handful of them that speak English. So, and then the bulk of them don't. So I don't get to talk to the bulk of the students in between classes. Like I just teach and then they're all communicating in Japanese and doing their thing. So I tend to leave and then I just come in and teach with that
Mhm.
group. Now I'll be able to have conversations with them
That's
one
incredible.
on one. It's
That's
just like
amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, someone was asking if Cody teaches mediumship, and he does. He has a 5 year long mediumship training, but to do that, you have to do intuitive training first, which we were just working on the sign up page yesterday. We're going to do
Yeah.
it in March 2026.
Yep.
So not too far away if you haven't taken it yet. That's our year-long training. So if you want to do mediumship, you have to do that first. There's some preliminary steps if you want to get into the secret society.
It's not so secret, but we can pretend.
I just made up the handshake. Um,
Yeah, I saw that.
uh, it is incredibly fascinating that, first of all, I'd be willing to bet that the group your teacher was in, the Freemasons and Rosicrucians, were probably all men. They're probably all white dudes, and they're probably on the wealthier side. Would that be accurate?
Right, right. Yeah, I would
Okay.
think. I mean, I don't know, but I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
back when he was doing all that was 40s and 50s, so, and maybe into the 60s. So, yeah, of course.
yeah. So
And that would be of the 1900s people. So
the
that was a lot
1900s people.
last century.
Remember those 1900s people, Cody?
Remember those 1900s?
That's right. What year was your grandfather born in?
1896 or 7. I know.
That is incredible. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so
He's dead now, though, by the way.
oh,
Not to think
what?
that he didn't make
Uh,
it to the 2000s.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
sorry for your loss. Um, he's not 140,
Yeah.
130 something. Wow, that is incredible. So, I do want to make sure we have enough time here to do a meditation together. I also wanted to say that a lot of folks who went on our trip, some of them in
Uh,
meditation.
can I jump in just real
Yeah, yeah,
quick?
yeah.
Because
Go
I
ahead.
just saw a comment from
Sure,
Becca.
sure.
Yeah, Lewis's daughters were in Eastern Star, which was for women. It was the Freemason
Hmm.
branch for women. Yeah.
Oh, there was a Freemason branch for women. Cool, cool.
Hmm.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what I was going to say was that there was a lot of our students in India who felt a very strong connection to India, to the Himalayas, to being a monk, maybe in a past life. I remember once I was in India, I was visiting a monastery a Buddhist monastery in the south of India, and there's a very big monastery there, and I felt this incredibly strong past life connection. I was just bawling, crying, just kind of reliving this energy that felt so familiar and so comfortable to me. And ever since I was 16, all I wanted to do was go live in an ashram or monastery and meditate. And my parents are secular from, communist Russia, no religion, nothing, New Jersey, just none of it. There were no influences on me in that way. And it was just like exploding out of me since I was a teenager. I would go online, look up ashrams, and just salivate at the idea of going to live in one and living some kind of monastic life. And so when I was in India, I definitely felt that pull, that past life
Yeah.
pull. It was really interesting. We have it in different people have it in different places, uh, for sure.
Yeah, I had it really strong in Egypt when I went to Egypt and Japan. In that level of Buddhism, I felt many past life connections. A
Hmm.
little bit in India, but not as much as I had in a few other places. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel mine the strongest in like Rome,
Mm.
Italy, in definitely in India, um, and Native American influences always seem to
Oh
jump.
yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
one for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are people on the planet, this is their first rodeo and they feel very new and indifferent to this place, or they don't like Earth very much. And it's like, what is this?
They're visiting. They're just visitors.
There's just all the violence and anger and pain and mortality. Ugh. uh, for me, I've traveled all over the world so many times, and I haven't been everywhere, obviously, but I've done a lot of traveling, and I just feel at home on this planet everywhere I go.
Yeah.
I always have. Um, so maybe we could explore that a little bit together as we close our eyes and start a secret society. I mean, meditate. What should we call it?
What should we
For the
call it?
just let me close this by, for those of you just listening to the podcast, if you're listening to the pod class somewhere like Spotify, um, we do the meditations free for everybody as long as you're on our newsletter list. And you come live on Zoom, like those of you who are here now and be in the energy with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's let's do this. Let's go ahead and close our eyes and do a good job meditating so we can reincarnate as a llama. I
not
want
the
to see.
animal, the person.
I want to see Cody as a llama.
As a
No, the
llama.
animal. I would like to see you as the
Oh,
animal.
the animal.
I
Yeah.
would keep you as a
I'd
pet.
spit at you. I'd spit on you. That's what llamas do.
Now, how am I going to start the meditation? You got me all thinking
The
about.
camels we had to be careful around too. They're a little testy, a little mean. Yeah.
That's right. The camels they're bitey.
They bite you.
Lord.
And they're so big, they just walk right over you if they wanted.
Oh my God. All right. I'm going to have to let that image of Cody being a llama spitting at me go as we get an Eastman image.
I would enjoy. It would be fun.
All right. So when you're ready, we never know what kind of turns this class is going to take. Oh my gosh.